After years of travelling the world together, Doug and I have developed a tried and tested routine that we follow before and during every single international trip. Today we're pulling back the curtain and sharing exactly what we do, the 10 things that keep us organised, connected and confident no matter where in the world we are headed.
Welcome to the Global Travel Planning Podcast. Your host is founder of the Global Travel Planning website, Tracy Collins. Each week, Tracy is joined by expert guests as she takes you on a journey to destinations around the world, sharing travel inspiration, itinerary ideas, and practical tips to help you plan your next adventure. Join us as we explore everywhere from bustling cities to remote landscapes, uncover cultural treasures, and discover the best ways to make your travel dreams a reality.
Hi everybody and welcome to this week's edition of the Global Travel Planner Podcast, where this week I'm actually joined by Doug.
Hello.
And we thought what we'd do this week is we'd kind of chat about all the different things that we do, kind of our routine that we follow before and during our international trips, because we've been traveling a lot over the last few years. I mean, how many countries do you reckon we've traveled together?
Well,
we've been married 21 years, just sharing that one. In 21 years, I don't know how many countries.
Probably
maybe we should think of continents, actually.
Close to 50 countries, I'd imagine.
I would say so.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a big one in accounting. I've decided that's not the way that I want to go, but it's still just to keep track. Yeah. I think the only continents that we haven't been to together is South America.
Yeah, I've not been to South America.
And obviously Antarctica, because I went there last year without you.
And I get seasick, so I'm not going there.
So Doug did not want to go to Antarctica. But if you do want to go to Antarctica, there is a whole episode.
Drake's Passage did not appeal to me one little bit.
Yeah, well, I'm just busy writing an article about the Drake's Passage, actually, with some tips as well. But anyway, so this really isn't, it's not a generic tips list. It's just these are actual things that we do.
This is us.
Personally, yeah.
This is us.
And because we get asked all the time, I mean, we bumped into a lovely lady on the train the other day who's a big follower of the UK Travel Planning podcast and website and email, and she was really chuffed when she recognised us. And
it was nice to be recognised, not just from my legs.
That's a bit of an explanation. Maybe we need to explain that one. That was just what happened on the Edinburgh tram last year. Just we recognised Doug's bandy legs. But anyway, we're not going to go into that one. But anyway, these are all tips that we've learned through the years. Some of them the hard way, because we have made some mistakes along the way.
Oh, yes.
And basically, we just want to share this as ways that work for us. That's maybe something that you may want to consider. And I will say as well, some of this stuff I've started doing a little bit more as I got a bit older.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I've got a kind of significant birthday next year.
You don't look 80, I have to say.
No, I'm not 80. But anyway, so some of this stuff I think I do, it's definitely different from travel in my 20s and 30s.
Well, yeah, there's technology around now.
Oh, for goodness sake. Honestly, yes. Anyway, just ignore all of that. Anyway, I did want to say, though, before we get into it, if you're in the middle of planning a trip and not sure where to start, I've put together a free global trip planner. Now, it's a 5-step workbook that takes you from the first where do I even begin moment right through to being packed and ready with all the checklists and itinerary templates we use for our own trips. Now you can grab it at globaltravelplanning.com/trip planner, and I'll pop the link in the show notes.
Good.
Anyway, should we just go through these top 10?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, let's start off with tip 1. And this is a really important one. This is something that I've really started doing recently, and maybe the last 10 years or so, is to research the airport and book your transfer in advance. Now, I do this without exception.
That's right.
And this is something that I guess I started doing in the last 10 years. For me, this is it can be a game changer. It's the time when you arrive at the airport in a country and you've got to decide about, how you're going to get to accommodation.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, a lot of people I know who probably are more on the side of kind of the budget travel, backpacking type thing, even at our age, may not do what I'm about to suggest, but this is something that I find, it calms me down. I feel less stressed arriving at a destination, and that is booking my transfer.
Yeah, that's right. It works for you.
It does. Well, we both do it. We both get transfer sorted.
Yeah, when I'm on my own, I don't do that so much, but definitely when we're together, we certainly do.
Well, it's just that I think after a long flight and you arrive in a country that you've not been to before, an airport that you've never been to before, and potentially a language that you don't understand and know about, the last thing I want to start negotiating is how to get into a city. Now, I know, as I say, a lot of people will say, actually, it's cheaper to go and get a bus or the train into the city. And I remember doing that when I went to Bergen, actually, a few years ago to visit you when you were doing Norway for a while. Yeah. And I got the bus from the airport into the city, and then I got a train to visit you. But I just have found that is when I've got luggage, I just want somebody to meet me with my name on a board and take me to the car, put me in the transport, and take me to my accommodation.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of logic to it, to be honest. Yes.
And I know it's something that you always feel more comfortable when I'm doing that when I'm not travelling with you.
Yeah, certainly that's true. Especially when I'm in Australia and you're travelling to Europe somewhere. The time differences as well. If I'm going to bed and you're still travelling and arriving in the middle of the night, I like to be peaceful in my mind that you've got it covered.
Yeah. So I always do that. So that's something I do recommend. That, and I'd be interested to know if that's something that you do as well when you arrive in a place. Do you get that organised? I know there's lots of YouTube videos you can watch about how to get from the airport into places, but for me, having that transfer is just peace of mind, really.
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's a good idea.
Second thing that we always do is we sort our eSIM and VPNs before we leave home.
We certainly do. Most definitely.
And, so we used to, in fact, I've never changed a physical SIM card because I am the sort of person that if I had to change a physical card, I would lose it.
No, I remember when we sat on a flight somewhere and there was a guy with all his little kit and his little clips and his little needles and things, and he was sorting out a SIM to the country we're going to, and I think we chatted about it thinking, with us that would have ended up on the floor somewhere. All those bits and pieces.
It wouldn't. Well, you don't have to do that these days because there's fantastic things called eSIMs. Now, but you have to check that your phone is compatible with an eSIM.
Yes.
But honestly, we've tried lots of eSIMs over the years, but now we use Saley eSIM is the one that we've been using recently. Found it really good. I actually have got a discount code for 10% off your first purchase if you decide to go with Saley. And I actually have got a comparison guide as well on the website for eSIMs and actually for VPNs as well. We'll talk about VPNs in a second. But also a lot of these you can get where they're for kind of areas. So you can get Asia or Europe eSIM.
Right. Yeah, so you're going to check if you do multiple countries, you're literally got to change it from every country to country, which would be a bit of a hassle.
So a lot easier. And you used the Saley eSIM when you came over to the UK. How did you find that?
Incredibly straightforward. And I have to just say it was the most straightforward one I've used because I could actually set it up when I was still in Australia to be ready to start when I got off the flight at London Heathrow.
And it is very, very easy. I have to say.
Clear that length of flight. You're tired. You don't want to start faffing around. And I literally just switched my phone on and there you go.
And I know for a lot of people, the whole eSIM thing can feel a bit overwhelming, but honestly, it's a lot easier than you think, as long as your phone's compatible.
Yeah, I was going to say that if I can manage to get it working, pretty much anybody can. Trust me. Yeah,
I think it's really useful. Now, for those of you as well that are considering maybe if you're traveling and you're going to be maybe using some of the free Wi-Fi available, for example, in your hotel, the airport, places like that, we highly recommend a VPN. Now, a VPN is basically a private network that you set up. Virtual private network that you set up on your phone, laptop. We've been using this for years. We have it on most of the time. For example, it means that people cannot see what you're doing. So if you're doing any banking on your phone and somebody is on a free network, like in your hotel and the airport, anybody could hack into that and basically hijack anything that you're doing, which always worries me. And I have heard stories of this happening to people that used a free Wi-Fi in a hotel, and then all of a sudden they've had money taken out of the bank account. Or
public Wi-Fi is fraught with danger.
Or their email address being kind of hacked and all sorts. So, I mean, I it's one of those things to me. It's like just gives you that protection and peace of mind to be able to do that. Again, I have got a we use NordVPN, and I have got a link again to have a look at different VPNs so you can see what works for you. But I highly recommend using a VPN for sure. It's actually also really good as well if you want to watch TV shows in different parts of the world, because you can switch a VPN on.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's right.
And watch different TV shows, because VPN you can set for different countries. So then if you are going to watch TV, a show in, for example, in New Zealand, watching something like Traitors, which we've been doing recently, you can set it up and then you can watch Traitors as if you were in New Zealand. So that's been really good.
Yes.
Now, tip number 3, we download our key apps before we actually even get on the plane.
Yep.
And there are some apps that we just have found absolutely invaluable.
That's right. And I was also going to say, if you've already got the apps on your phone, is to double check they don't need updating or refreshing before you leave.
Yeah, that's true. And unfortunately, there are some apps that I would like to have got access to. For example, this year, being in the UK, I went to the Chelsea Flower Show, and they have got an app guide to the show. And myself and Melissa my friend from America, she tried to download it, and it was not available on our app store.
Yeah.
That is a bit frustrating.
For different countries, that's right. Yeah.
So I would just double check, make sure that you know what apps you need. I know ones that we always download are the transport apps for various countries.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Because that's really useful.
Incredible.
So one of the most useful apps we found recently, especially traveling places, like for example in Southeast Asia, is the Google Translate.
Yeah, that's been incredibly helpful.
Because even when I was in South America last year, and I was in a shop and I'd bought a fridge magnet, and the lady at the till wanted to tell me something, and so she spoke into my phone, and it basically was you got 2 for the price of 1 type of thing, and she wanted to tell me that, but she didn't speak English, so she typed it in, and then it spoke it out to me. It was great.
That's a good idea.
And we used it a lot actually in Japan as well. Japan we found incredibly useful. Go around supermarkets and be able to scan the label and find out what's in it and what it actually is.
Yep.
Is incredibly useful.
It's useful when you're paying bills as well, if you want to know what charges and fees are.
Yeah. Google Maps offline as well is something I did, like when we were driving across Australia. We basically downloaded the Google Maps and had them offline, so that was really useful. We've got the taxi apps at Grab, for example, when we're in Asia as well. We've got that on the phone. So yeah, it's absolutely that's one of the things we did talk about, is making sure you've got enough storage on your phone for all these apps.
That's right, yeah. Not to mention all the photos and videos you're going to be taking for make sure you got enough storage for that, but certainly, yes.
Exactly. So if you're actually traveling to the UK, I do have a best apps that to use and download before you go to the UK. I haven't got a global one, but we have got ones. We do have some recommended apps per destination. So if you look at our destination guides, you can have a look.
It depends on the mode of transport you'll be taking when you're in these countries. Yeah.
Well, transport, where you're going to get around, how. I mean, I think some of them you'll just
maybe a weather app as well.
Yeah, weather app's a useful one. I guess there's some for general travel that we'd always have, and then there are ones that we look at specifically at the destination, what we need. Number 4, this is absolutely essential. And I actually have had people say, I don't really need this, I'm not going to bother getting it. Well, as far as we're concerned, if you can't afford travel insurance, you can't afford to travel. And that is the 4th thing we always recommend.
Harsh but true. Yes.
Absolutely, you must get travel insurance. And don't just assume travel insurance is just to protect you in case of a cancellation of a flight or loss of baggage. It can help you if there's an emergency, health emergency happens.
And we've heard cases of this.
Absolutely heard cases of this. I've been with people who've hurt themselves on holiday and had to get flown home, and they get flown home at least in business class, get looked after. Yeah. I've heard, people who have have flown back with a nurse with them, and that's all been covered by travel insurance. We all hear horror stories of people having accidents on motorbikes in Bali or Thailand, and then having to do a GoFundMe.
That's true.
Because they haven't got travel insurance. Make sure as well that you can access that information.
That's also very true. Yeah, reference numbers and the name, like an account number, reference number, all those
telephone number.
Yeah, all the out of hours ones from the countries that you go into. So
exactly. I mean, remember when I ended up in hospital in Vietnam?
I'm not likely to forget it in a hurry.
So I ended up with pneumonia and in hospital in Vietnam. And honestly, I think you actually had to go and pay a certain amount before they do any treatment, which is fair enough.
Yeah, a few $100s. It wasn't.
And in the end, I think it cost, for everything, it was something like 600 Australian dollars. And with our excess, I think we only ended up paying 200. But that I got excellent treatment. But we also didn't have to worry. If I was going to stay in for a couple of days, we didn't have to worry because we knew our insurance covered it. Yep. Now, there's lots of trips that you go on that you have to have travel insurance. For example, I went to Antarctica last year. It was absolutely compulsory. You have to have it. I went to Morocco in March with an Intrepid. Again, they want to see that you've got travel insurance. So always check travel insurance and make sure that you are covered about it. Also, we're going to talk about medications as well.
Yeah, that's right. I was nearly, not nearly caught out because I did my homework. I'm on medications every day, and whichever country we're visiting, I always do my own homework just to double check that they are firstly accepted in those countries, because don't make the assumption that all medications, just because you prescribe them in your own country or even over the counter medications, that they are available in another country. Don't make that assumption because it's not true. So do your homework, look at embassies, health sites for whatever the country that you're visiting. Maybe from your own country has a list of medications and some guidance notes for when you're visiting those countries. I know from Australia we have Smart Traveller, which is incredibly helpful for any country we're going to visit. They have it listed, and they have websites and checklists and everything else. It's an excellent website, and it takes a bit of time. Truthfully, I have to go through and do a bit of work, but it's worth it. You don't want to be arriving into a country and having your medications taken off you.
No, for sure. Definitely not. Okay, so tip number 5 is to check visas and entry requirements. Now, this is really important because there have been lots of changes recently. For example, in the UK, needing an ETA, and also now, if you are classed as a British citizen, you have to have an ETA. You can't arrive. In fact, take that out. If you're classed as a British citizen, you have to have a British passport. You can't actually enter an ETA.
That's right.
So that's been that complication. There's ETIAS in Europe. Obviously, depending on which country is going to around the world, you need to have a look at what the visa situation is. Stay up to date. In fact, we've had to apply for visas before, not necessarily visas, but kind of those entry requirements, for example, for Sri Lanka, Malaysia, before you actually arrive in the country.
Yep.
And then you just have to pay a small amount of money for that, and that gives you access. But there have been changes now. I think at the moment Thailand's changing their visa because you could stay there. It was not a visa, but entry requirements. You could stay there for like 30 or 60 days. Or 60 days, I think they're changing that down to 30.
It's just an immigration registration.
Yeah, that's it, rather than actually a visa, but looking at this kind of entry requirements. But
again, you've got to do your homework, and don't assume because you visited this country 2 years ago that you didn't need it then. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the same today. Yeah,
absolutely. And also make sure that you always go through the official government sites when you pay for these things, because we've heard horror stories of people who've been, paid £200 for an ETA when it's not that price when you go through the official government price, nowhere near that. Yeah. So that's why you go through the official government sites for that. I remember when we went to Japan.
I knew you were going to mention that. I knew she's never let me forget this one. What it was for the Japanese entry requirements, I did all the visas for both of us on my laptop, and then when we actually landed and went through, I hadn't got the correct information because it was on a QR code, which I did not have on my phone because I did this on my laptop. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So by the time we got it sorted, all our luggage, everybody had gone. Our luggage was the last on the carousel, and it took us quite a long time to get through. Yeah. So obviously, saying this is like there's different types. There's a visa that you need to apply for. Like for example, I needed for India, which I had to apply for quite a way in advance. But then there's e-visas that you kind of apply for, some on arrival or some like 24 hours before you arrive, because you've got to fill in different information and then sort those out. So again, it really is about doing your homework about what your passport enables you to do, because it's different depending on where you come from. Yeah. And then looking at each country and keeping it up to date. Again, that's why the Smart Traveller is really good.
It's an excellent website. It really is an excellent website. But what I do now, lesson learned, is always do that sort of work when you're actually registering and going through the process, is to do it on my phone.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we got it. Did we get it wrong for the Philippines? Because we had to do something with the Philippines as well. It was on our phone, but they sorted us out when we arrived.
Yeah, no, what it was in the Philippines, we'd done the first stage, like a pre-registration, and there was another step to go through for the actual application.
Right.
So we registered all our details and passports as a general, like a pre-registration, but for registering the dates of arrival and leaving, we hadn't gone to that next step.
Right. So see, we get it wrong. Even sometimes mean, sometimes it is complicated.
But I have to tell you how lovely that lady was when we did that. She was absolutely lovely.
They were lovely in the Philippines when we arrived
nice.
at the airport to sort that out. But it's like, we make mistakes, and that's what I'm
course we
saying.
do.
It's like trying
But
to
that's
double
part
check
of-
this.
part of
Exactly.
the joy of travel. That's
Exactly. So it's just
Things happen, yeah.
learning from it and going, okay, next time what can we do so we don't end up with this
right.
mistake or error? And again, it says just keeping up to date with what's happening. Tip 6, get a Wise card or similar and sort your currency strategy before you arrive. Now, this is something that's important.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, we both have Wise cards. We've had them for quite a long time. I've got, 20 odd currencies on my Wise card. They have multiple, you can hold multiple currencies
Yeah,
on
I
there.
think I've got about a dozen.
So basically it just means it's like a debit card. So you put money on it, you can move it around between currencies, you can put it back into your regular bank account. It's just an easy way to move money around. It's accepted. I've got it on my Apple Pay actually, so I pay that way.
Same here, yeah.
So I hardly ever use the card, to be honest. However, when there are some destinations we've gone to that they prefer cash, like the Philippines, Sri Lanka, Morocco,
That's right.
India, those countries prefer cash. So we tend to get that at the airport, at the ATM. Do not change cash at an airport because you will, at the currency exchange, you'll lose a lot of money. They do charge a lot.
So that's why, even though the Wise card's on my phone, I always take the physical card. Also.
Yes, I do. I just find it, always have the physical card with you so you can withdraw. And I did that in Morocco this year. I had to withdraw cash. In some countries, for example, Morocco, there's actually a maximum amount you can draw out from the ATM. So you're probably going to have to do it a few times. We found that just the easiest way to do it. And just because a lot of those countries prefer to have cash rather than card. Places in Europe, I tend to just use Apple Pay for everything. In fact, I travel around quite often without anything but my phone, which is probably not the best strategy. And just pay that way.
Did you travel around the UK with just your phone?
I did for about 3 weeks.
Whoops.
And I just realised that I didn't have any backup. So, again, I learned from that one. It was fine, but it's just worth knowing that, for some places, it's just doing that research about whether it's cash, whether you can use Apple Pay or Google Pay, whether you use your phone, whether you need your card, whether you're going to need a PIN to actually pay.
True.
So it's, again, doing that research. Also letting your bank know in your home country that you are going abroad so that they don't block your card when they all of a sudden they think it's fraudulent payments in a different country that they weren't expecting to be at. So it's always useful to let them know. In fact, we were picking up a car yesterday and a couple stand next to us that had their card turned down for the payment for their car hire.
That's right.
And the guy was actually saying to him, did you let your home country, did you let the bank know that you were going to be in the UK? And I think they were kind of scrabbling around to kind of sort that out.
That's right.
You don't really want that happening because that's not a great start to your trip. You arrive in the airport and can't pick up your car.
No, that's true.
So I actually do have a link if you want to get a Wise card for a trip, which will give you either a free transfer, free card if it's available in your region, and I'll link to that in the show notes. But we've been using Wise for a long time without any issues. But obviously there are other currency cards available, so do your research and check out which one works best for you. Tip 7 is to research cultural etiquette and learn a few words. Now, you are far better at the few words thing than I am.
I am okay at learning a few words, just your please, thank yous, good mornings. But I also have to tell you, once I've left that country, I forget.
Yeah, but I think that's normal. I mean, I used to be able to speak fluent French, literally between English and French, I used to switch between the two. And we're talking 30 odd years ago, and I really struggle now. Yeah. So and that was total fluency. So I think learning a few words, you're going to forget it. And obviously, if we're moving around, which we are, to quite a few different countries, it's then you can get mixed up. Yeah. So I think you're just better at remembering.
I try because not to mention that it's very polite and respectful thing to do when you're visiting somebody's country, but to be honest, it's quite good fun. I have no personal aptitude for learning languages, but I do actually quite enjoy trying to learn a few.
I think you're really
words.
Good. You speak a lot more Welsh than I do, that's for sure. And you're still pretty good at the Welsh, to be honest. But also etiquette's important to know. Yeah. For example, it's a bit Welsh coming in there. For example, in Japan, don't eat and walk on the street. That's not accepted. Not acceptable practice. Look as well into tipping, because I know some cultures prefer, they have a tipping culture, and then it's become quite anxious about knowing about tipping. But for example, again, in Japan, tipping is not really expected and not really wanted. Look at things like dress codes in temples or churches or cathedrals.
Be respectful.
Yeah, so that, you're not walking in with a cap on or shorts on or a very short skirt on or sleeveless or not covering your head when it's expected. So again, that's about looking at the different destinations. We have got on the website, we've got destination guides to a number of countries, basically everywhere that we've been, which is quite a lot now. And we've got included bits into that, each of those destination guides about that sort of information to be aware of. So do check out our destination guides on the website, globaltravelplanning.com as well, because that's also, we've covered a lot of that sort of thing, and also in previous podcasts as well. Number 8 tip is to be scam aware. And to think about the bag that you use. So we've been caught out by a scam that a few years ago in Rome, which really upset me. And I think this is a problem when you get
probably
scammed.
20 years ago.
It probably is, but I remember at the time, it even now, my heart sinks, and it just left a bad taste in my mouth that somebody would do this.
We were aware of it at the time, but you can't prove it.
Oh, yeah. And it was, so basically what it is a scam where the 5 and the 20 euro note are swapped because they look quite alike. And basically what the taxi driver did, first of all, it took us a long way around, which we didn't realize, again, should have done the research, but we're talking 20 years ago, would not happen today. Long way around to get to a hotel, which was quite close to the main train station, actually, in Rome. Distracted, was you paying or I paying? I can't remember. One of us
you
were
were
paying.
paying. I was getting the things out the boot of the car.
Yes, and then he distracted. He kind of went, "Oh, look here! Look what's going on." So we kind of both looked, and when he did that, what he did is he swapped the 20 euro notes for a 5.
Yeah.
Then when I turned around, he said, "Oh, you've only paid me 2 5 euro notes," because I think it was like 40 euros, which was again absolutely ridiculous cost. Yeah. He changed the 2 20s for 2 5, so it was like 10. So I was like, "I'm sure I paid you 40," and he was like, "No, look, you've only paid me the 10 euros." So I ended up paying him again, double, extra. Yeah. So when we went into the hotel, we'd said to the people in the hotel, and they're like, "Did you get the number of the taxi?" And because they said, "You've been scammed, you've been robbed," and we didn't. No, we didn't. So that is something that still happening today. Obviously, people pay less.
So what we do
cash.
now is you hand me the cash.
Yes.
And then I hand cash.
Counting it out.
Yes.
So again, we don't pay very much cash these days.
No,
But the second thing I will say that's happened, which was an attempted pickpocketing in Paris, and we got on the train. We're actually staying in Montmartre. I got on the train, and actually a gang surrounded me. Separated us out and surrounded me. Now I had a backpack on. And what they did is unzipped the backpack and went through the backpack. Now, I was aware of this sort of thing happening. I did have, and I still have that backpack, travel on backpack, which is, pickpocket friendly or whatever. I suppose not pickpocket friendly. It's to stop pickpockets getting into your bag. Now, I had it basically just had my underwear and some dirty clothes and my toothbrush in there. So there was nothing that they could get. And I was aware of that. But I knew what was happening, but I couldn't move. But in front of me, I had my crossbody travel-on bag, which I had close to me. There was no way they were going to get into that. That was also not only zipped up, but clipped up. So they couldn't get into it. So actually, they couldn't get into it. And actually, when we got to the next station, they all got off. And a guy said to me, "They've been through your bag." He spoke to me in French. And I said, "Yes, I know there's nothing in it. But it could very easily have had everything in it. They would have got off that train with all my stuff."
Yeah, that's right.
And the other one we saw was actually a guy running after a pickpocket in Paris near the Eiffel Tower, and he caught the guy and grabbed the bag that this guy had on him. He tipped it up in front of us because quite a few of us were a bit like, "Oh, what's going on here?" Yeah. And there must have been 20 or 30 wallets that dropped out there.
Yeah, there was everything. There was watches, wallets, jewellery.
Yeah. So you just have to be really careful. So I always personally travel now. We have the backpack still, make sure that there's nothing really valuable in the backpack, but I do clip it up. But I have what is valuable in front of me on my crossbody bag. And I hear loads of people on Facebook groups, I always just use the bag that I always used. I'm not going to use anything different, blah, blah, blah. You know what? It's up to you. It's your choice. But I feel far more comfortable knowing that I have got things clipped in, that people can't slash it. Because that's the other thing when people go, "I just bring my bag from home." Well, it could be slashed very easily from below and your belongings fall out and get stolen.
And they can read through. They have card readers to read through bags. And
So I don't want to be a scaremonger, but I just say like after I've seen like probably 3 incidents. One with the cash and the swapping of money in Rome, and the 2 incidents of the pickpockets that would worry me. But I just know that we did speak to somebody in a consult a couple of years ago and said to her for Paris, be really careful. And when we met up in London afterwards, she said, guess what? Somebody got into my bag and they got my wallet, but I caught them. Because she kind of took her off the ball for 2 minutes, and they went and you see it on Instagram. All these people in Florence, pickpocketing and stuff like that. It's just to be really careful, just to and this can happen in your hometown, your home city, but just be aware that if you're in a place where there's a lot of tourists, then there is more potential that people will be on the lookout to try and. We've had the situation with one lady in London who had her bag stolen with her passport in it.
That's right.
So you just have to be careful. But again, not scaremongering, but it's worth thinking about the bags that you use. I have got a link on the website to the different bags that I use that I've found. We've both been lucky, touch wood. Again, your phone is actually a thing that they're targeting more these days.
That's right, yep.
Yeah.
We both have lanyards for our phones.
Yeah, make sure. And I actually was reading the other day about somebody who had their phone stolen and all of their apps on the phone, their authenticated apps was just on the phone. And they were saying, make sure you put it onto something else like your iPad or your laptop so that if your phone gets stolen, you don't lose access to all your authenticated apps as well. That's worth noting, really, how to be careful. And we've talked about, I guess, on trains as well, to make sure that you've got your luggage in your eyesight, in your eye line, because we've heard recently of people who've had luggage stolen off trains.
Yep.
So it's just being careful. I mean, you always say to lift it so you can keep your luggage above your head.
Yeah, I look for luggage space behind seats as well. Sometimes fit in there. I mean, some trains have deeper or shallow parcel shelves, so you just got to try it. You just got to see where it is and try and keep your eye on it, even when there's a crowd on the train.
I think it's always been aware that when you're in a strange place or a new place that you don't necessarily know, or a busy place, you're going to be, your guard will be a little bit down because you might be taking photos or you're trying to figure out where you're going to go, or it's all a bit new. And that, unfortunately, leaves you a little bit more vulnerable for people who are out there to scam.
That's right. I mean, when we do the consults about trains in the UK, busy railway stations are a notorious hotspot. If there's more than one person travelling, dedicate one person to look at train information and one to watch the bags at all times.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that works.
Absolutely.
We do that ourselves, whatever country we're travelling to, even now.
Yeah.
Even places we're familiar with.
We actually did take part in an online kind of conference seminar that was about travel safety in Europe, and I can put a link to that because that's actually really good, because that's experts from all over given, and we were involved in that as well, kind of sharing tips actually for train travel safety.
Yeah, saying a similar thing. So
I can just put a link into that. So if you are traveling, this is particularly for Europe based, but if you're thinking about that and wanting to be a little bit more aware of like how to stay safe and the different strategies, then that is definitely worth looking at. And again, I'll put a link into that online kind of workshops that there were that were really good. Tip number 9 is check the weather and pack accordingly. Now, it might sound obvious, but actually, it's pointless looking a month before you arrive in a place and then thinking you're going to pack then. You need to really look, especially in the UK.
Yeah. Yes.
You need to look maybe the week before. Because, for example, in the UK 3 weeks ago, it was a heat wave and it was really, really hot, like mid-30s. Now it's maybe 15, 16, 17. So it's not anywhere near as warm. So people were panicking, thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to the UK, I need to just bring shorts and T-shirts. Well, if you brought shorts and T-shirts based on that, you'd be cold.
It's a bit chilly.
Yeah. Always just check basically as well, because obviously we know what potentially a country should have because of seasonal conditions, but we're in a time of climate change, so we know not necessarily what would have been 20 years ago is what the weather is going to be like when you arrive now.
That's very true.
And so we always think of things like checking like the weather. There's a good app as well. Put the weather app on your phone.
That's
and check that as well. And try not to overpack, because that's just another way to get yourself stressed out.
Layers.
Layers again for the countries that you're going to that we're traveling around at the minute, like UK, definitely layers. We're going to South Africa, layers, because again we're going over in winter. Even though we're in the UK in summer, we still need a lot of layers. But yeah, I mean, it just depends where you're going. your weather might change rapidly, so you need to be prepared. Also, again, packing. We were talking about adapters because we kind of screwed up a little bit with this for Japan, didn't we?
Oh, we did. I did loads of research on this one, knowing exactly what power adapter it was going to need. And then our accommodation, we decided to stay somewhere a bit off the main touristy area, didn't we?
Yeah.
And it was an older property, and the power sockets were entirely different to the adapters that we'd bought with us.
Yeah, so
completely different.
We had to go to the shop and buy a new one.
We did.
Kind of multi-adapter, which we had. Yeah. So yeah, it's worth always just double checking again for a destination guide so that you can find that information out for each different destination. Tip 10, last tip, is research what needs booking in advance and do it, because this one, again, we get asked a lot about this, particularly for London, because we do focus a lot on London on our londontravelplanning.com website. We get asked, what should we book in advance? And we're like going, well, you need to book X, Y, and Z in advance. Some things you can't book in advance. You can only maybe book 2 weeks in advance, like the Sky Garden. The main thing for us is to say, if there's something that you are going to a destination for example, Edinburgh Castle is a classic one, or you want to go to Highclere Castle, you want to do those particular destinations, you go, oh, I really, really want to do that, don't want to miss out. Then book it. Once you know what your itinerary is like, then just book it. So you've got that sorted, locked in, because there's nothing worse than getting to a place and the thing that you want to do
is not open that day.
It's not open or available.
Yeah.
For example, we went to Hobbiton, which I absolutely thought was fantastic. Loved it in New Zealand. And I'd love to have gone to the banquet, but get to the banquet and it was too late to book. It was fully booked. So we couldn't do that. Again in New Zealand, a couple of times, because New Zealand was a bit of a kind of we had a short window of organisation for it, but I booked something in New Zealand and then didn't realise that it clashed with the Lady Knox geyser when it was about to go off, the particular time of day that this geyser goes off, and it's really impressive, but I'd booked something else, so we couldn't actually go. So again, it's just, if there's something you want to do, make sure that you can organise it so prioritise so things don't clash. I mean, we'll go back and do that another time, but I was just like driving past it going, would have been really nice to have seen that, but we've got this other thing booked, which I also don't want to miss.
Yeah, it's true.
So I mean, what we tend to do is we basically look up the days that we're spending in a particular destination, and then we look at what is it that we want to do and see, and then we look at the availability of those particular attractions, and then we book them. Now, that's not saying that we book every single day, every single hour of every single day on our itinerary, because we definitely don't. No. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are like, I don't do anything. I just kind of pitch up to a destination and I just kind of go for it. Well, that's your travel style. If that's your travel style, that's great. But then don't feel bad if you can't get into something that you think, oh, I actually did want to see that, because if those are the things that you should book. But yes, obviously, absolutely give yourself some flexibility.
Well, you have to, particularly for the weather, which we've already mentioned. Really, you've got to have flexibility there.
Absolutely, but as I say, lock in those must-dos, or try not to. If there's something you think afterwards you're going to be like, oh, I wish I'd done that. I wish I'd not the geyser for us. Then make sure that you just. I guess it's that balance between being well prepared and not overscheduling.
Yeah.
But again, it depends on your travel style. I have friends who will just pitch up and kind of take it as it is. And then I have other friends who have every hour planned. Again, it depends on...
Same with your meals.
Exactly.
It's the same with meals.
Exactly. Well, that's where we usually mess up, because I love food, but I'm more inclined to be like what I feel like on a day, rather than planning too many things in advance. So
unless it's an afternoon tea.
Well, then I can happily book lots of those in. So that's no problem. Anyway, we're going to finish off this episode. But Doug, if you had to pick the single most important thing from the 10 that we've gone through, the one that's made the biggest difference to how you travel, what would it be and why?
I think it's probably that booking in advance your transfers, your destination, particularly when you're travelling alone. I like to make sure
for me, because I said for you that's not such a big deal.
It's not such a big thing if I'm travelling on my own, because I'm quite confident when there's trains involved, especially I can work through that. I think
the thing is, it's that I'm not as physically strong as I once was.
Yeah,
I'm also will get tired after a flight. I don't want to be leaving myself kind of exposed to just more vulnerable arriving, especially if I'm on my own. But saying that,
and later night arrivals,
whatever time I arrive in, I just would prefer to have somebody meet us. And to be honest, when we travel together, I'm 99.9% of the time I'm the one that organises it, and I will do the transfer.
That's true.
For example, we're flying into Cape Town next month, and the transfer is already organised.
That's right.
So you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry either.
No.
So that's a really.
I only worry when I'm not travelling with you.
Yeah, exactly. I think all of these 10 points are really important. Again, it comes down to research and preparation, really. Yeah. That's the important thing, is just to prepare so that your whole trip is just smoother, safer, and just more enjoyable. I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
We've got, as I say, a lot of resources on the website, globaltravelplanning.com. There are a lot of back catalogue of podcasts as well, from destination experts sharing, talking about their different destinations that they know inside out. There's lots of trip reports from ourselves, from the different places that we've explored and been to. There's lots and lots of stuff on the website, as I said, so do go and check that out as well.
And what is the most important thing we've discussed to you? Which is your most important?
To me, I think it's just the general overarch and being prepared. I think it's that being prepared so you're not caught out, so that there isn't something there that you kind of go, I mean, I guess for me, I like to feel organised. So, and I also like to feel that safe. So for me, having my crossbody bag and making sure that I know where everything is, I think there's nothing more stressful than when you're traveling and you don't know where all your, where's your phone, where's your credit cards, where's your, where's your important things that you don't. And so that for me is like, I need to organise what's going in specific bags. I don't like to overpack, because the more bags you have, the more stressed you get. That's
certainly
total.
True.
I think that's a mathematical equation. Yeah. More bags equal more stress.
I think when you're tired as well, jet lag as well, I think you're a little bit more disorientated, and that's when you sort of doubt yourself, when you're tired. You
know what the other thing is? I think as well, as I've got older, because I travel so differently from my 20s and 30s. When I was kind of like, throw it in a bag and off I'd go, I was a lot stronger. I was probably had more energy. I think now, as I'm kind of nearing kind of, my 60s, I'm just more conscious that I have to feel more organised. I don't want to be stressing out. I probably get more stressed. I'm more probably aware. I'm slightly more fearful of things than I was in my 20s and 30s, where I kind of just blasé went into stuff. Now, probably, I think that just happens as you get older. You just become a little bit more conscious of just being a little bit more careful. Sometimes probably too much. I think probably, you read stuff and you think, oh dear. So you just don't want to, it's whatever I can do that would reduce my anxiety.
It's reducing that risk of the anxiety. That's what you're
exactly.
trying to do.
So I just feel better, so I can enjoy my trip.
Most definitely.
Which is exactly what we always love to do.
Yeah, we certainly do.
Anyway, I think that's enough for this episode 99. Can you believe it?
99.
Episode 100 coming in 2 weeks' time, because at the moment, as you're aware, we're just doing every other week for this podcast. Hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be going back to weekly. We are really happy with the amount of you guys who are following our podcast all the time, and our downloads are growing, and would love you to just use our resources, for example, our website, sign up for our newsletter, that sort of thing. That would be really, really helpful as well for us. But I guess that just leaves us to say until next time, Doug, happy global travel planning. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Global Travel Planning Podcast. For more details and links to everything we discussed today, check out the show notes at globaltravelplanning.com. Remember, if you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review on your favourite podcast app, because your feedback helps us reach more travel enthusiasts just like you. Anyway, that leaves me to say, as always, happy global travel planning.